everybody, and welcome to another 80s Golden Age of Comedy. I'm your host, Bruce Starr, and it's just a very exciting time in my life. Not only to be able to share with you what my life was like back in the 80s when I was a personal appearance agent for stand-up comedians, people like Howie Mandel and the unknown comic Murray Langston and Paul Reiser and a lot of other guys, 35 guys as a matter of fact, and it made life very interesting for me, and I was able to make good use of myself out there by making calls for those 35 comedians. Didn't get work for all of them, that's for sure. I would have liked to have worked harder at that when I was out there, but I did represent 35 guys and made calls to get them personal appearances at the booming country clubs, the comedy clubs around the country. And it was just a fantastic time in my life. And I really got to know the comedians, and I stayed in touch with them on the internet. And when I started doing these shows, I got back in touch with them because I never really wanted to bother them. I didn't really have anything really in common with them. But when I started doing these shows, and I started making contact with the comedians, they were more than glad to come on board and do a show with me, which has been spectacular. But I'm thrilled to be able to do a show with someone I didn't know and I didn't have any experience with out in Los Angeles. And I'm happy to have on the show Reverend Bob Levy. He's an American stand-up comedian, radio personality, writer, an actor, and he's kind of best known as being a regular personality on the Howard Stern show. I'm sure a lot of you will recognize him and his voice, and he's also the co-host of the Miserable Men Show on Howard 101. So I want to thank you for coming on the show, Bob. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, buddy. It's good to be here, man. I love that you talk about like the time in the 80s, because that's when everything was great. Comedy world. It just popped. I got to start right around 1988, and it was just an amazing time because once you got out of the open mic, I would do an open mic every Tuesday, and I'd work my way up there, whether you had to pick tickets to get on, but then they'd hand me a ticket and say, here, this is your number, because they knew you had something. And then like after 2 years, I started working in everywhere at comedy. It was like, I remember playing at Ground Rounds, those restaurants, and I'm like, a Ground Round? It's like, I can't believe we're playing at places like that. But it was popping so big that everybody opened, and it was just a great time. And you were working like from Tuesday to Sunday, a lot different than it is today. Mostly it's the weekends or maybe a Thursday put in, but it's changed a lot over the time. But I think it's going to come back after we get back out again. I really think people are waiting to get out, waiting to have a good time again. So I'm looking forward to that again.
Yeah, that's very true. Twice in the last month, I went out and saw shows. One down in Boca where they had 4, 5, 6 guys there.
Yeah.
Richmond Avini, Don Gavin, Bruce Smirnoff, Jimmy Schubert, and 2 or 3 other guys. And I just couldn't believe the place was uproar of laughter. People were having such a great time, and the comedians did so well after most of them took a year off. So then I went to see my friend Bob Perlow. He does a one-man show where he talks about being the the number one warm-up guy, and talked about all his experiences with all the stars on sitcoms and in movies, and people just loved it. So that's encouraged me to say, you know what, if I can have anything to do with getting people like you, Bob, on the road again and having people laugh again, that's what I want to do. That's the next step, the next progression from a show like that. And that's what I'm doing. I'm getting lots and lots of information out there about different comedy clubs and different theaters and different colleges and universities. And, I'm going to do my best to get people laughing again.
Yeah, people need that now. I could see, you see when you just go out to a store, how everybody's like afraid to say anything to anyone or talk anymore. It's like it's a different atmosphere when you're in places like that. But when you get back to the club, it feels like you're alive again. It feels like, oh my God, this is what it was. But when you go to a mall, it just changes everything, or even just food shopping. Everybody's aware of what, because everybody's got a mask on here when you're inside. And it's just like, it seems like you're in a hospital wing, you know, and you got nurses and doctors walking around with patients, and it's scary. It's like, who wants to communicate with people that look sick? Nobody does. And like, you know, in real life, you would back off a little bit. You wouldn't go up to somebody you thought was really sick because you don't know what to say to them.
You know,
It's
15
different.
months ago, if you saw someone walking around the mask, you call the cops.
Yeah, exactly. Now people are going in, like I go into a store, like I went in this morning. I put my hand in here to get money and out of a jacket, a light jacket, and I got a mask on. It looks like I'm reaching for a gun. And that's what it's like. What are you going to do if you rob a bank? Do you not wear a mask now? Is that how we know?
So, Bob, I'm sure people really want to get to know who you are and where you're from, where you were born, a little bit about your family life. And did your family life have anything to do with you getting into show business?
Uh, Basically, I not really because I had like a great. I grew up in Brooklyn. Okay, I was born in Brooklyn, New York. Uh, I was there till I was 8 years old. I just remember it being a great place as a kid. You know, you played stoop ball, you played stick ball, you played just anything. Scully, the game with that those little bottle caps, and you hit it to numbers and that, and it was just like amazing time. Then when we moved to Staten Island, it was new. It was kind of new then, and I think I was in second grade. I started then, and there was woods all over. It was like it was a whole new life again to play outside, and that was the good thing. We were able to do. You were out all day in the summertime. You were out playing all day. You didn't come home till dinner time. You went out for a little while till the lights came on, and then you had to be home. And it was an amazing time. I had a normal family, very normal, very normal. No fighting, no drinking, no craziness. It was a nice. It was the dream family that people want. And later on, when I got into high school and that, I played in bands and all that, so I always wanted to do something like that. And I busted my balls. I wasn't that good at school, going and all that all the time. So I dropped out and I was doing landscaping, and it was a lot of work. And I'm going, this is really a lot of work. This is 10 hours a day, Monday to Saturday. Not for a lot of money. And I go, I didn't do the band thing. I didn't like to have to work with three other people. You know what I mean? To make plans for three other people. How it went, it was up to four of us. I wanted to do something that I was in charge. And we used to listen to Howard Stern when he came to WNBC, me and my friend. And then we kept hearing that they had an open mic in West Orange. And my friend goes, you should try this. And I tried it. And it was like the first time went great. I was like, you're on cloud nine. So you go back next time, you're like, yeah, this will be easy. I go up, I die horribly. It was horrendous. I was dirty. I wasn't funny, and I couldn't get out of it. I didn't have the tools to get out of that at the time. The audience looked at me like I just murdered their animal at home, and Jackie the Joke Man came up and he didn't know what to say, because he had to make the air a little clearer for people. And he goes, hey, how about a hand for the Reverend? Because he didn't know what to say at that point. And it got a laugh when he said it. And that was my nickname from there on. But it was like a great time to just like get out. Like I never knew I didn't know when I was a comedian or not, but I knew when I made it. When I made it was my father used to go, this is my son. And he'd say my name. Here's my son. Here, Bob, And then one day he goes, this is my son. He's a comedian. When he said that, I knew I made it. That's when I knew I was doing comedy. And he finally goes, okay, he's on to something here. This could be really good. And that was amazing. And I wish he could have seen a lot of the stuff I've done and all that. That would have been amazing. But he got to see me, moving my way up before I got onto radio and everything.
And when did you get your first paid gig? How did that come about?
Well, that was basically, it was 2 years after being in that the Rascals open mic. And then Tony Camacho, an agent he was from Queens, and he booked Rascals. And he came up to, he goes, call me for some work. And I'm like, yeah, this is great. So he gives me a weekend in Clark, New Jersey at the Penny Arcade. Then it was Casual Times after that. And I go there, there's two other comedians there. And I go, who booked you here? And they go, Tony Camacho did. I go, wow, he booked me too. I had no idea how the business was. I thought Tony was just booking me, and the other two got booked by whoever sent them. And I was headlining. I had 25 minutes and I'm headlining. So right away, they have to do more time than me and they're getting paid less. So that wasn't a good thing for comedians that have been around for a while. So I'm walking into a business I know nothing about, knew nothing about this business at all, how it ran, how it went. And I'm headlining after 2 years. And people before me that's been doing it longer have to do more time. And it was weird at the beginning, but it didn't matter. I was nice enough to people that they wouldn't get that mad at me once they got to know.
Sounds like an interesting start. Do you remember any of the people that kind of started with you around that time?
I remember everybody from Rascals. That was, it was like Don MacArthur, let's see, with Don MacArthur. I remember like Chips Cooney being around. Otto and George started before that, but we were always together. Let's see, there was like a few guys, none of them like kind of went big, really good, but it was a good time. Like the good comedy people that started around that time did move up pretty quick, but then some like today there's so many comedians. It wasn't like there was a lot back then, but I think they wanted it for different reasons. You knew you wanted to do this for a living. Here it's like, hey, I can do this. No, you can't do it. You can't do it. You're ruining clubs by booking your friends. You're not comedians. You're just you're advertising it as a comedy show. It's not. You're charging people, and you shouldn't even be getting paid. And there's a difference then. We didn't have the balls to go out and say, hey, we're going to do this on our own and do our own thing, because we weren't good. We weren't ready for that. And you had to move up with people that were, that were working already, and you listened to them. I listened to everything everybody said about the business, how it works, what's good about it, bad. I did the same thing with radio. I understand what people want from knowing, you have to be able to read a crowd. Some people go out there and go, see, I'm a little bit dirty, but the whole thing is that I go and see the crowd. I see what's going on, what they're going for, and I go, all right, I got them. I know how to do this, and I get them. Some people go up there and they go, I'm just doing my act. You're actually doing the act for the show that night. That's the people you have to impress, the people that are there that night. So you do it for them. You don't do it for you. And you have people that go, oh, they didn't get it. I'm too edgy. No, you're not edgy. You're not a professional. It's all about you. It's not about what matters is the people that come and pay for you.
I think it's so important for the comedians, especially newer ones, of course, to hear this from you, because like you said, a lot of them think because they told funny jokes in high school and they made their friends laugh, that they can make strangers laugh. And many of them are in for a rude awakening when they get up on that stage and they go into the sweats because no one's laughing at their neighborhood jokes. And it's a tough transition.
That's the hardest thing. That's the toughest feeling in the world. Let me tell you something. I've done everything. I've just in life meeting people. I've never felt so uncomfortable as it is when you're not doing well on stage. There is a feeling. You feel like the lowest thing in the world. You just want to get out of there. Like when I first started, somebody goes, oh my God, like, oh, you were awful. You know what I mean? You were rude. You were there. And you drive home and you're yelling. You're in the car going, I suck. And you can't sleep. And if that doesn't affect you, you're not a real comedian. That's where you're going to do your learning. Your learning comes from all your mistakes in comedy. All the mistakes that you made, you go, okay, I got to do this. I got to fix this. I got to fix that. Now I'm ready. Now I go out there. I go out there like this is going to be a piece of cake because it can be, because I know what I'm doing now. I got the material. I can work off the audience like anyone else. I can make the evening about them, about us. And that's the key to comedy, making the evening about everyone that's in that room.
Great advice. Haven't heard it put like that before, so I appreciate that, putting that out there to the audience. So tell me about your first steps towards this whole Howard Stern thing. How did that all come about? I know you started to mention it.
Yeah, I mean, like, I listened to Howard for years since he got to WNBC. I mean, it was every day, and then when he went to the morning, it was every morning. It was whatever. That was your life, you know, and that's what I enjoyed it better than TV.
Now, a quick word from one of our sponsors. Hey, gang, I've been told by a lot of the comedians I knew and represented during the 80s I looked the same as I did 40 years ago. And come to think of it, I still have my thick brown hair and just a few wrinkles. But most importantly for me, by simply applying the completely safe human growth hormone homeopathic gel on my skin just 2 times a day, the depression and panic attacks I suffered from years ago were gone in just 2 weeks. And then I started deep sleeping for many hours at night. You know, you can have the gel work for you too. To find out more, contact me at bruce@brucestarproductions.com.
Okay, so basically, I was out there working. I was building a big audience before Howard. It was getting big, you know. It was nice. And then, like Casey Armstrong, who is the producer of the show, associate producer, he heard about me from Jim Florentine, and basically, you know, he went to Howard and said, "You got to hear this guy. He's crazy. He's nuts. He's like, he's amazing on stage." And Howard had me call in one time, and shortly after the first call in, the call in went good. They had a contest for called the Meanest Listener, where they had people roast people on the show. And I was like, oh, this is good. So I sent in a roast to Howard right up the bat. They loved it. They played it all the time. I sent in one for Robin. I was only supposed to send in one. I sent in one for KC. I roasted somebody else too. And then when the contest came, they picked one from each person. I ended up winning that contest. And I did it live, and I think I won 2 live, and I won $25,000 and a truck, a Durango or something like that. And that was the beginning of me going, but it still didn't lock me to be in there. It didn't lock me in there. I had to have an in studio appearance with just me sitting there, and then I went in, and I remember it to this day. And this is in April 2012. 2002, and I did the interview, and at the end, Howard goes, the Reverend Bob Levy, the first of many, many, many appearances. And it was amazing to hear that, because you were on cloud 9. You didn't know, when you were in the studio, you had no idea that there was millions of people listening. You did when you were in the back, but once you got in there, you were so comfortable. He made you feel so comfortable. And he took that away. That's what made him one of the, you know, maybe the best. I'd say the best, because of the fact he made you forget about everyone there and open up. And when you open up and you tell fun stories and the truth, it's great radio. And that's what it became. And it was just like amazing. And then hitting the road from using the dates of being on Howard and sending in stuff. The more stuff you sent in, the writing, this, coming up with this bit, let's do this, let's do that, and you got it on, you became more popular. The crazier you are on the road, you became more popular because of the stories. We started going out live, going out with some of the guys on the show. All of a sudden, there's people all over the place. And it was like an amazing time. You know, I started going out with, I think, Stutter and John first. Then me and Artie Lang went out. and it was just huge. And then I started to kill as a comedy with Sal the Stockbroker, Richard Christie, Yucko the Clown, Julie, Beetlejuice. And that was like a traveling show. People wanted to hang out, they wanted to meet us, they wanted to watch it. It was great. You had comedians, but you had people that were just, it was like a vaudeville show almost. It was like crazy. But it was like the greatest thing, especially, at that point, this is bigger than going on the Tonight Show at those days. You know what I mean? There was nothing on TV that can give you a push, whether it was Letterman, Leno. It wasn't a push you got from Howard anymore. And I got to, what? It's amazing when you're on Howard Stern, you don't know. You meet people, you meet celebrities, and you're like, and they know you before you walk over to them. That's a weird thing. That is the weirdest thing that I noticed, because I never expected anyone to notice me. And I just lived my life like I do. And people would come up. I'm with my son when he was young, and they're like, the Reverend Bob. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm like flipping out because, he's screaming in front of my son. But I didn't realize that, these are unbelievable fans. And I was at the Borgata with Artie. We're doing the Borgata in Atlantic City. And I'm out there selling T-shirts. And the guy comes out, he goes, you got it, with the lady in charge. And she goes, you got to go right now. There's a fan that wants to meet you right now. And I'm like, yeah, when I'm done. You know what I mean? Let me tell it to you. And they go, you don't understand. You have to meet this fan. And I'm like, all right. And I got some girl I knew. I said, just sell these T-shirts. I'll be back. I walk in the back. It's Jay Leno hanging out. He's doing the big place in the Borgata. We're doing the smaller place in the Borgata. And he goes, hey, Bob, how you doing? Hey, what do you say we get something to eat? He goes, yeah, once Artie gets full, I'll go out. We went to eat. It was like you're hanging out with Jay, like he's the nicest guy in the world. He was.
He is.
And he was such a sweetheart. And I remember saying, I got to get going because I got to go and take care of my dogs. And he's like, wow. He goes, I never heard that excuse used to get away from me. and Artie's like, you're leaving to take your dogs out. You're hanging out with Jay Leno. But I didn't think that, you know what I mean? I always kept the balance of my life to what was important to me. It was great to meet Jay Leno and hang out with him. But to me, my house, my family was everything first, especially when my kid was born. Everybody was going to the city then. Everybody, Jim Norton, Rich Voss, Jim Florentine, Don Jameson, they all went to the city. I have a kid, I'm going to stay home. You know what I mean? I took a different thing because life had to work around that. Even when I got that divorce, I stayed in the house for like 3 to 5 years in the basement because I still got to see my kid every day. And that is an important thing, especially that can break your kid, that can break you to be away. And it's like, you have to do that in your life. It's very important. And then still go on. You know what I mean? So I'm happy. I'm happy the way everything turned out. Yeah, it could have been bigger, but I had, you know what I mean? I had things I had to do, but it's cool with me. I'm happy. Like, I can look back at everything that I've done so far and go, man, I shouldn't even done that, because you don't expect it. You don't expect it, but like, it's like, it's starting again. I feel like I got into a car accident 4 years ago. I'm finally back to normal, almost, you know what I mean? I still deal with stuff, but not as much pain. And I'm going back 110%. And I want to see what I can do. We started the Miserable Men show on podcast again. I started doing Levy Land on Syndicate Radio. What I'm doing now is going full blast. The more I work, the less pain I feel. By talking to you, I feel no pain right now. If I'm sitting on the couch or if I'm walking around, I feel it because it's mental. Your mind is everything to your body. Your mind is going to take your body and say, hey, it's time to do something. It's time to forget and stop moaning about all this crap in your life.
If you got much bigger, you wouldn't be on my show right now. So there's a big plus right there. So tell me a little bit about the reach. Do you know how many people are listening to your shows now? Do you have were you able to translate the success that you had earlier into success and listenership in the new shows you're doing.
Well, the new shows are really new,
Oh, okay.
but
Okay.
we actually, I was on Stickum when that was big, Stickum, and everybody was on there. My show was featured on there. I would get the numbers. We would hit a lot of numbers, very big. Now it's you working. Like now, like Levy Land, I get anywhere on YouTube, just on YouTube, like 600 to 1,600 an episode,
Very
which
nice.
isn't bad for just starting off.
Right.
And then the Miserable Men thing, I think the first one we did on YouTube was like 4,600. But it's like it's very early in it and getting it out there. We have a company behind us that's going to help us on Miserable Men. They're gonna push it. They get the advertisers. They get all that stuff. So I think that when people know it's going to be big, like Miserable Men will be big, you know what I mean? And people will come, everybody will come. It'll feed down to Levy Land. Levy Land will feed into Miserable Men. It's just the way that it happens. And it will get big because people, this is the new entertainment. This is it on your computer, on your studios at home. People like nobody, okay, there isn't, if you listen to radio out there ain't competition anymore. You know what I mean? You look at them, they're not really, there's nobody I can listen to and go, okay, oh, wow, I'll never be like that. Right now, I listen to stuff and I go, okay, let's go. I'm ready for this. We got them, because they're either getting slower or they don't know how to do it like anymore. It's like they have, if you have 5 people on a show, you got to know how to do it. I mean, like Miserable Men's like 5 people, but the whole thing is, it's a key to doing it. It's like when we did it in the studio and Sirius, I go like this. I put my finger up, boom, you go. You know what I mean? You put up 2. That means I'm going to talk about it. 1 is a punchline. You have to have some kind of hand signals to have good radio without talking over each other. It's a main thing, and it's like after 12 years, we're doing pretty good at the beginning with it, and we're not even in the same studio. But you hear big shows out there, they have 3 people talking, they're talking all over each other. It's just not the same anymore.
Right.
And they're not as good as they were.
Right. I agree with you. And I don't listen to that much radio, but I know
Mm-hmm.
radio has totally changed.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a million and one podcasts out there, and you have to be able to stand out.
Yeah.
And that's what you have to do. You have to find a vehicle to help you stand out. And you got a leg up on everybody because you knew how to stand out a long time ago. So you're building and building on your expertise and experience.
Yeah. See, that's the whole thing. It's like if you're in a situation where you're working with Howard Stern and you don't pay attention to everything he says, what they do back in the front of the radio, back of the radio, everything to do with radio, you have an opportunity to learn from the best. And I was able to do that with them, Opie and Anthony, Kid Chris. I mean, it was like amazing. And then you go on any other show, it's a hit because you learn, you know how to do this now. There's not one show you can go on and not kill. And like regular radio, if they just I'm going to try to get one Atlantic City again on a Sunday night. I used to do. I was talking to people. I want to get on there. I want to show you. I can work clean. I can work dirty. I know what I'm doing. I know how to bring in an audience. I had a 14 chair on a Sunday night when I was in Atlantic City years back. It was great radio because it was about everything. It was about my life, but my life is like your life. I'm no different than anybody else. And when people are listening at home, you have the same problems. You're not the only one. That's what I love to hear. When I hear people complain, I go, you think you're the only one that has that problem. You know what I mean? Oh, poor me. No, get off your ass and wake up and fix it. That's the whole key. And everybody wants to talk about, once you start opening up the conversation to people, you'll see that everybody has the same thing going on. And you give each other advice that you're missing, maybe, and you can help them. It's like drugs or alcohol. Some people don't know how to they want to talk to you because, oh, you were able to get off it, but you're able to have a drink now. How do you do that? It's because I'm in control now. You know what I mean? How can I let something take over my life? Why can't I have a couple of drinks at a party or at a club, have a drink before I go on? Why? Because I'm weak? No, I'm not going to be weak.
That sounds great. It's another excellent message to the people out there that they don't have to be taken over by an occasional, fun thing that they do.
Yeah.
So let me ask you something. I'll ask you a Howard Stern question.
Okay.
I think people get a pretty good idea about who Howard is. I think he's what you see is what you get. What don't people know about Howard that you can share with us?
I mean, he was always nice to me. I'll tell you that. He did care. He wasn't like he's not going to be your best friend, but you know that. But he did come over to you. How's things going? Like before the show, how's things? Oh, is everything good for you? He was very caring about like that. On the radio, yeah, he's a little different. I think everybody is, and that's what makes it. It's a personality that you're using on the radio. But no, he was always nice. He was like, and he always had like he has a small group around him, a small group of people. But I guess that's why, because you can't trust anybody in this business. When you make it, when you're doing good in this business, you have a lot of friends. Everybody loves you. When something happens, my God, you see this phone here, you might as well just throw it away because it ain't gonna ring. It ain't gonna ring. And then when things start going again, the phone rings. Hey, I noticed you're doing this. I noticed you're doing that. Can I work with you? Can I? But that phone doesn't ring when you're sitting on the sideline for some reason. And it's just the way it is. You have to get used to it. That it's a business. It's not. It's not. You're not going to have. Most likely, you're not going to have friends like you did growing up. You're going to have acquaintances that do what you do. Some of them become good friends. Some of them may not make it the whole way, but that's what happens. But it's a business, and if you're going to take it personally, it'll hurt you. It'll definitely hurt you. This business.
So tell me about the phone when you got into your car crash and you got in.
Oh, when I got into the car crash, I mean, my phone really didn't ring. I went. It was a horrible time. I mean, I went from being fine, getting drove home by the tow truck driver, uh, coming home. All of a sudden, that Sunday from that Friday night, I started throwing up. I had this migraine. I was throwing up all of a sudden. I go to the hospital. I had a concussion. Then all of a sudden, it started with my neck, my lower back, my arms, nerve damage, my legs, everything from head to toe. And then I found out I damaged two parts of my brain in the back. Like I said at one time, and somebody goes, "That's hilarious." I go, "I damaged two parts of my brain in the back. One's for memory, and I forgot what the other one was." He told me, But I just said that, and somebody goes, "That." Bonnie McFarlane goes, "That's a joke. That's hilarious." It was at the benefit that they did for me. Like, okay, I went through a whole year where I was home. I think I weighed 230 pounds at the time, right? I went down to, I think, 107 because, yeah, and this is a year. Basically, I was divorced at the time. I'm here. My son's here. I can't work. Okay. Most people don't realize that if you're off for 8 months or something like that, you are going to go through a ton of money, a ton of money. It just goes, and the bills don't stop. Trying to live, trying to eat turned into a thing where I would have a peanut butter sandwich and green beans. I would put whatever I had to eat, and I would take it easy because I knew I couldn't go. It was hard to get out. It was hard to eat. It was pain. You were up for 2 days. You slept for 16 hours, and then you can't move again. It was like this for a long time. And then, it was just like, I just never called anyone really. And it was just a horrible thing. And then all of a sudden, I go out one night, I get arrested for being behind on child support, which I'm not, which it was ending, right? My wife time ended it. My son was living with me. I get thrown in jail. I'm in jail, crippled now. I'm on Xanax, okay, from the doctor. I end up being there for 4 days because I acted up. They threw me in the mental ward there, which is where you just go and you have like like a Fred Flintstone outfit on. You have no clothes. They put you in this thing, no pillow, no bed. I was so mad. I just slashed out. They threw me in there. It snowed one day. They didn't have the camera cord or whatever. Had to stay another day. I flipped out because I didn't have Xanax with me. I had to have the nurse come in and give me some other stuff. I was losing it. I went, like she said, put a bag over your head because I'm flipping out. And she went to put the bag over my face, and I grabbed her hand, and the guard said, "Don't ever grab her again," you know? And it was like, really, for, you know, for anyone that thinks jail is a joke, it's not. I don't care how tough you are. Yeah, you can survive in there. But let me tell you something. By not being able to do what you want to do, it's the worst thing that can happen to a person. You are locked. I was locked in a cage for 23 hours a day, and I had no idea why the gate opened in the morning. The gate opened in the morning. I looked around outside. I go, oh no, I've been an asshole to them, and they're going to beat the crap out of me if I go out there. So I just went back and laid down on my metal bed that I was sleeping on. But to go and live in that circumstance, if anybody's out there that's listening, you think you're cool and that stuff, don't go to jail. You do not want to deal with that. Jail is awful. Prison is awful. You know, whatever. Jail is the first step. You don't want to go into it. So I got out of, by getting out of there, I said, I'm going to rehab. I'm going to go. My wife at the time now, she said, you're going to rehab to get off the Xanax. It was the greatest thing I ever did. I went there for a week. I was able to get off it. They give you the medicine to get off of Xanax and stuff like that. And if you have an alcohol problem, it's the same thing. I forget what it was called, but you can only get this. You cannot get this from your doctor who gave you drugs to get hooked on. You can't get it from him, but you can go to prison or you can go to rehab to get off it. Those are the only two places you can get this medicine to get off it. So I decided to go to rehab. A week later, I want to check out. I got it. You're saying you got it. And they're like, you can't leave yet. I go, I'm done right now. They go, no, we're going to put you in a halfway house and we'll find you a job. And I go, you're going to find me a job? I go, do you know who I am? Do you know what I do? Do you know anything about anyone that comes in here? And they're like, no. I go, maybe you should. You know what I mean? Where are you going to find me a job? Truthfully. And they wanted to keep you away from everybody. They wanted to make it, it's all about money too, which is the bad thing. And people got to be careful of what places they go to, what you sign, because if I would have left, they would have called the cops on me and I would have been arrested. But they made a deal with me and I was able to leave because I wasn't going to go by their rules and they weren't going to go by mine. They seen that was happening. So they figured, let me get him out of here because he's going to be trouble. But that's the stuff that, all these drugs and that stuff will mess you up. If you take anything from your doctor back then, especially 10, 15 years ago, this was an easy fix. Everybody was making money. Here, take this, take this. In comedy, everybody was drinking, doing drugs. And then if you can get your hands on this, this is like, hey, look what I got, and everybody's like bees coming to the nest. And, but it's crazy. You know what I mean? It's crazy. And to be in the house for basically 3 years of doing nothing because you're coming down from rehab, you're in pain, you're trying to get back, your phone's not ringing. I had people tell me, I had bookers tell me. One booker told me that I didn't want to book you because I didn't want to see you like that on stage, like leaning against the wall, make believe I wasn't hurt, putting my foot on a speaker, looking cool. I was starving because people felt bad for me. Are you kidding me? But that's what, you know what I mean? It's a business. That's another thing. I can't be mad because this guy has to sell tickets. And if he thinks that I'm a mess and I shouldn't be on stage, that's up to him. That's his business. So I can't really take it personally. But it really took a while for me to get, once I was in jail, then a lot of people found out what happened to me and they did a big benefit for me. It was like Colin Quinn, Artie Lang, Jim Florentine, Jim Norton, Vinnie Brand, James from the comedy. I I can't think of the name of it right now, but he put it together, and it was an amazing feeling to have this, you know. And I remember that night I couldn't even move, but it was horrible, and I didn't want to live. I didn't want to live like this, truthfully. And I had some of my talk. I talked to my son. I said, I can't live like this anymore. If it's going to continue like this isn't worth it. And he goes, you got to stop. You got to fight. And I did. I finally fought and dealt with. I dealt with it. Like I said before, I'm not the only person this happened to. You know, this happens to a lot of people out there. A lot of people get into car crashes or whatever, and they have to come back from it. You can quit easily. It's an easy way out. And that's what I was looking at. But then once I had to talk with him, I was like, yeah, he's right about this. And I fought to get back to where I was.
Wow. I really appreciate you sharing that with us. It's a wonderful, wonderful experience that turns out to be a wonderful
Yeah.
experience because you're now the man that you are now. And I would bet 10 years ago, you don't recognize that guy from 10 years ago.
No, you don't. I hear stories about him, and I say, I really did that. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. And I don't say I'm sorry. I'm not a sorry guy, because I tell my son, don't say you're sorry. Sorry is a bullshit way to get out of something you messed up on. So just don't do it. And if I say something, just listen to me and go, okay, don't say you're sorry. And that's the key. It's like, but when I hear about that person, this is a guy that was on 3 bars of Xanax a day, my doctor gave me, who was a fan of mine. You understand? So I went there and told him I stopped drinking. I go, I feel a little nervous on stage. He goes, hey, take this stuff. This will calm you down. I had no reason to be on that. It makes your moods. At the beginning, it feels good because you're hot. That's what. Then it takes your mood. Your mood is very low to anger. Your anger is very, very horrible. Or your happiness is very high. There is no middle ground anymore when you're on these drugs. My anger cost me the CERN show after 8 years. It cost me a marriage, which probably would have happened anyway because I'm married 4 times now. But the fact is, I know how I was. I was loud. I was like, it had to be my way. I'm always my way kind of guy. I try to do it. No, I know what I'm doing. Please. And I'm still kind of that way, but I'm learning now. I'm learning from my mistakes. I really can look at it now with a clear head and go, yeah, I mean, I wasn't me. That wasn't me. And if I hurt anybody back then, I'm sorry, because I was not in control. And that's what that drug does to you, and other drugs like that. I mean, I see that there's ways to give people marijuana and use it the right way. I was told by my one doctor that did the pain management, he goes, I don't want you on pills. I don't want you on that. It's not the way to go. He goes, get the marijuana card. You find what's good for you for pain, help you relax. But once you wake you up, you play it like that. And I started doing that. And that's actually changed my life and let me tell you something. I smoked when I was younger. Everybody smoked, but I didn't smoke for many years. And now when you smoke something that's right for your mind and everything like that. I can go and say, oh, okay, before I react to this, let me think it over and say it in my mind. And then you go, when I did that last time, oh God, I was really an asshole. You can say you're an asshole and understand it. You're actually looking at yourself from outside and going, this is the way you should handle it. It's definitely changed your thinking. Like I say in I go, there would be no crime in this country if everybody smoked weed. There wouldn't be, because you don't do anything really stupid. You do stupid stuff on weed, but you're not going to go, I'm going to rob a bank. And you go into the bank, go, give me all your money. And then you're like, no, I don't know what I was thinking. Can I just get a lollipop? I'll go home. It's like, you're not going to rob. I've never heard anybody, truthfully, robbing a bank on weed, raping somebody on weed, any kind of serious thing. Oh, I was on weed and I shot somebody. You never hear that because it's not an aggressive drug like alcohol. You can have a few drinks. That's legal. That's legal. And alcohol is the number one thing for a lot of stuff, for spousal abuse, for murder. Like you react because you think you're macho now. You think you're tough. When you smoke, you're like, oh no, that's cool. Yeah. No, you can have her. I'll just get another wife. It's like you have a different way you look at life. And it is kind of amazing. But it's like sometimes you need something in your life to help you understand that's something that's like I believe this is good for a lot of people. The vets that come over, to come back and they have problems, they put them on these pills, makes the problems worse. If they would give them the weed to just check it out, what blends it perfectly, you would see a different thing, a totally different thing. But once you start on those pills, you start the drinking and you put them together and you're like, this is good. And you create a monster. You create a monster and that monster's you. And people have to deal with you. And most people don't realize that when the moment you need help at the beginning, this is when everybody should try to get help, is when you start to be a problem for people around you and friends. You know what I mean? Your family and friends. When you start to cause a little bit of different life for them, that's the problem. That's when you need to get help. That's when you affect other people's lives. That's when that person needs help.
Beautiful, beautiful insight.
Mhm.
I'm sure. Let's take it up to forget about last year.
Mhm.
Right now, you're feeling better. You have a whole new outlook on life. You have a whole new outlook on comedy.
Mhm.
You're ready to get back on the road, aren't you?
Yeah, I really am because I, I miss it. I miss the fans. The fans are like, over here they can see me all the time. Jersey, New York, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, like all around here, they can see me all the time. I miss going on the road and going all over and seeing people that are dying to see me again. They hit me up like, when you come back, I'm like, yes, I'm going to get through it. I'm going to get back out again. But I want to get out there, even if I did it one last time and just did a whole every a few countries and every state, and just said, hey, thanks for the fun time. I'm gonna be here. I'm gonna be moving to Florida, and maybe I'll open a club, and you come and see me there, and I'll have other acts there, but it'll be a travel spot. But I want to do a lot more radio. I enjoy talking. I enjoy learning about people because, like, when I do interviews with people, I like the way that you do it. It's more about the person. It's not about how do you get started? You know what I mean? It's like, how do you get your nickname? How do you get? Yeah, I've answered that 100 times. We want to tell you about what we be, how this person has involved into comedy, and the comedy is involved into this person's life, and that's what's exciting. That's what every interview could be the same with a comedian, but no, it's not this way, and that's what makes it the best. And that's why when you go back into this now and you go, I'm feeling pretty good. I know I can get better. I know I have certain problems. I'm working on those too, that I can get back and feel, 80% better down the road. But now I'm digging this. I'm digging being out. I love it. People starting to come back out to the shows and that. It's all restarting. It's really not going to, you can't consider comedy until September, I'd say, where everything's going to kind of open up and it's going to be okay, because I just can't travel a lot. I had neck surgery. I'm not going to be on a plane jolting around right now. I want to get better. I don't want to screw myself up before I should be. So I'm like, I'll kind of wait. I'll wait till September, start going crazy and take over again.
Well, that's great. People can email, go to the 80s golden age of comedy.com. If you're a fan of Reverend Bob's, you can go there. You can watch the show there again. You can turn other people onto it, but also go there to 80sgoldenageofcomedy.com and leave your email. Let's get you on a list so that when Bob is down here in Florida or anywhere in the country, that we can let you know, because I'll be working together with Bob to get him back on the road. And you can listen to him on the radio and, join his mail list there. But come to my website and join my mail list to make sure that when I'm working with Bob on a gig, that you're one of the first people to know about it. And Bob, if you can ever have me on one of your shows that's appropriate, I'm there, And I have to tell you one last thing about radio. I've been a TV and radio talk show host since, I think, 1991. And one of the people that inspired me the most was Howard, of all people, because when he came out and did that first movie, and I saw how hard he worked, going from little towns, little places, and struggling with the management, and then going to a bigger kind of city where he was just one of 20 hosts, but he found a way to stand out. And I remember saying to myself, I don't want to go to a city where I'm one of 30 hosts. I want to find a place for myself where I may be the only one, or one or two or three. And I found that. I went out of the country. I became the English voice for the Western Caribbean for 8 or 9 years.
Wow.
And it was fantastic. I was the first and only English TV and radio guy there. And I had lots of great guests and played great music. So Howard was an inspiration to me.
Yeah, no, it's because of the fact that, okay, here's the whole thing. We had Al Rosenberg on last night. He was part of the Miserable Men with us, and he worked with Imus when Imus was in NBC. Then Howard came. He went to Howard, okay, and he's like 74 years old now, and he was on last night, and he goes, what I don't understand. He goes, we were talking before, and he goes, I never knew why people tried to change you. They tried to tell you what to do. You are not a person to be told what to do. The greatness that when I'm doing the radio, he said, was that I am not controlled. I know not to go too far. I know what I'm doing. I know what show I'm on. I know how to do it. But when they say, well, don't do this, it's like when you work at a club and they go, oh, the guy last week was he offended somebody because he was dirty. Try not to be dirty. What is dirty? Don't, now you're messing my head up. Let me go up there and kill. Let me do what I do. I know what I'm doing. I don't care what the person did last week. That's his problem. He sucked. Okay. And he didn't do it right. But don't try to confuse me what I'm supposed to do on radio or on stage, because I made it to that point to be able to do good. I'm not here to upset anybody. I'm here to make everybody happy, and you can make everybody happy if it's done right. It's hard. No comedian can do. Nobody's ever said, oh, that guy was too clean. He was, he offended me. He was too clean. So you have a thing. You can suck kind of being clean. But if you upset one person or two people because you're a little aggressive on stage, oh my God, it's the end of the world, but they never go, you can suck and it's okay as long as you didn't push their, just a little too much on them. Comedy needs to get back to what is funny. What is funny? Not what people get upset over. Most comedians know what they're doing on stage. Stop trying to guide people. Stop complaining, people. You had a whole year to, I guarantee your families hate you because you were home all year with them complaining about everything, because that's what you do everywhere you go. Go out, enjoy life. If you have to wait on a line at Walmart a little longer, don't turn back and go, oh, can you believe this line? Yes, I believe it. I love it. I'm out with people again. Stop being a bitch and enjoy life. It's like, oh, you're not, everybody thinks they're going to change the world. Let me tell you something. You're not going to change the world. You can make a difference, but you're not going to change it. So just enjoy life, you silly bastards.
Yeah, great. Listen, Bob, Reverend Bob Levy, great show. I really appreciate you spending the time with me and me getting a chance to get to know you. And I know we'll be connecting in the next short while, and you'll be heading down here to Florida pretty soon. And we'll let's do our best to get you going down here. So again, thanks for doing the show. Really appreciate it. You're watching the 80s Golden Age of Comedy, Reverend Bob Levy. Thanks everybody for coming by. We'll catch you again. Take care now. Now a quick word from one of our sponsors. Hey gang, I've been told by a lot of the comedians I knew and represented during the 80s, I looked the same as I did 40 years ago. And come to think of it, I still have my thick brown hair and just a few wrinkles. But most importantly for me, by simply applying the completely safe human growth hormone homeopathic gel on my skin just 2 times a day, the depression and panic attacks I suffered from years ago were gone in just 2 weeks. And then I started deep sleeping for many hours at night. You know, you can have the gel work for you too. To find out more, contact me at bruce@brucestarproductions.com.